Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary, and part-time co-host, Alec Crowdhamel. Two new commitments out of the transfer portal for Rutgers football. Wide receiver D.T. Sheffield out of North Texas, and cornerback Jacobe Henderson out of Marshall. We'll get into what they bring as players, how they ended up as Scarlet Knights, and more. But first, we are presented to you by Knight and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, slam dunk your style this season with Knight and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season in our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we've got you covered with everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your passion for Rutgers basketball with designs that celebrate every dribble, dunk, and victory. If you use our promo code Rutgers Rivals, you can get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait, head to Knight and Day Apparel today and gear up for game day. Go Knights. We are also presented to you by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. So earlier this week, we broke news that D.T. Sheffield and Jacobe Henderson were on campus for official visits. And just like with most guys that have been on campus for an official visit this transfer portal season, they, a few days later, committed to Rutgers. Let's start with D.T. Sheffield. He was the first to commit. He is the all-conference wide receiver out of North Texas. On the season, he had over 800 yards receiving, another 100-some rushing, and 11 touchdowns. Guy's got a ton of speed. Richie, how did this one come together in terms of Rutgers landing D.T. Sheffield?
Yeah, they got him on campus and sealed the deal. This was a kid that had a couple other visits scheduled and ended up canceling them. He canceled. I've said this a couple times, I guess, in the past couple pods, but they've gotten guys to campus that had multiple visits, and they would just get on the campus and sell them on Rutgers, sell them on their position and their future with the Scarlet Knights, and that was really it. He canceled visits to Kentucky and Washington, and he was planning or finalizing a visit with Mississippi State as well. He also visited Arkansas this prior weekend before the Rutgers visit. But yeah, no, they got him on campus, did a really good job of selling him. One of the main factors that really sold him was the fact that Dave Brock spent a lot of time in the NFL. Schiano spent time in the NFL. The fact that there's NFL guys within the program, they know how to get guys to that next level. And on top of it all, Dymere Miller's role last year with the offense, showing that, hey, as a one-year slot receiver, you can come in and basically lead the team in targets. So, and you'll have a lot of chances at production. So this is it was an easy selling point at that after all that, and they got the job done. And he's probably your starting slot receiver day one now.
Yeah, Alec, what do you think of D.T. Sheffield as a player?
Yeah, I think this is a really good addition for this Rutgers offense. Filling in as that slot guy, taking over for Dymere Miller, can kind of play that similar role. He's got really good speed and quickness is the main thing that sticks out in his game. He just has the ability to get the ball in space and then just outrun everybody straight up the field. And he has a really good get off at the line of scrimmage as well. That first step off the line really sets him up well. North Texas used him in a lot of different ways. They had him in the slot primarily. They had him go upfield. He was, short yardage option. They would even give him the ball in the backfield as well. Just have him, they would use him on jet sweeps, little pop passes, things like that. It's always a good thing when you are the number one option on a team that has the best passing offense in the conference, which is what North Texas had. The Memphis game that Richie's showing had 3 touchdowns, and all of them were really in different ways as well. So it's just a really solid get for the receiving room, and they needed one of those veteran guys that has experience doing so. Experience putting up numbers. Granted, the AAC is in the group of 5, but obviously, like I said, they had the best passing offense in the conference, so he has experience being that number one guy. And while he may not have that same kind of target share, he still has the ability to make plays. I think this is him right here, taking a jet sweep, like I said, and just turned on the burners, broke a tackle, and outran everybody in the secondary and took it all the way to the end zone. That was one of 3 touchdowns he had in this game. So, yeah, just a really good addition and a guy who has a skill set that you really want to have for this Rutgers receiving room.
Because not only does he have that speed, he's also got some thickness, too. He's not just this frail, blade of a player. He's got some legit heft to him. He's probably about 200 pounds at 5'11", and they line him up all over the formation. They like to use him in motion. He's got really good hands, and he just uses the sideline here as an extra defender almost to just blitz down the field. He's going to add an extra dimension that we didn't have this past year, because Damian Miller was an excellent player, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have D.T. Sheffield's speed. And combine this with C.J. Campbell's receiving ability out of the backfield, it's going to be a very, very good season for Rutgers on offense, in my opinion.
Another year of development of KJ Duff and Ian Strong. Like, this is the best Rutgers wide receivers room since I don't even know how long. Yeah, probably.
I think it's the best since Brett Underwood and Timmy Brown.
Yeah, easily. It's insane that they've been able to land this one. This one is a very big one for Rutgers. You guys said it all. Elite speed. Like, he's just electric just watching him. And this is just one game, mind you. I think he had 100-plus yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. Really good change of direction, too. Like, he is just quick, shifty. Like, that's everything you want in a slot receiver.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter in this game. I want to pull up next the FAU North Texas highlights, because that has 2 of our commits in here. I want to find his 3rd touchdown, though, before we...
It was towards the... Right there. Oh, yeah, there it is.
It just runs an out route. Is able to beat his man.
No one's
this
even
is a team in Memphis who was ranked at some point this year too. Don't forget.
It's true. It's just like no one's near him at all. The separation is insane.
And this is a guy like you said, Richie, who we beat out a lot of teams for. This isn't just some like random dude that just had on campus. He could have really went to a lot of high major teams or Power 4 teams and ended up choosing Rutgers. And I think the most impressive thing about him canceling that Mississippi State visit, he's a Mississippi kid. Like, that's where he grew up, and he's choosing to spend his final year at Rutgers. Obviously revenue sharing plays a factor in this, and that's why Rutgers has done so well in the portal. But also, Rutgers is now an established program known for winning, being competitive, developing guys into NFL players. And even though Dunier's numbers weren't as impressive, and this is C.J. Campbell, by the way, as impressive as it was at the FCS, I think this tape will be his most valuable in terms of NFL scouts trying to get a good gauge on whether he can actually play or not.
He's interesting too, because he went to JUCO for 2 seasons, I think. Yeah, 2 seasons at JUCO. Then went to Washington State. Really didn't play at Washington State, and then went to North Texas, and that was it. Like, he just exploded. First team All-American Conference this year. 153rd ranked receiver per PFF. Like, he's just super talented, man. Like, this is exciting for this offense. Like, Kirk Schrocker has to be licking his chops a little bit, because he's got so many different weapons.
Oh, yeah.
I think he led the AAC in receiving touchdowns, too, with 11.
That makes sense. You might even see more 4 wide receiver sets too going forward. Like, I know they did it towards the end of the season, obviously out of necessity, but I think there's a good chance you see more with Ben Black, with KJ Duff, Ian Strong, and then obviously you could throw Campbell at the slot at times and put this guy out wide. Like, there's all kinds of things you could do with this offense this season.
Yeah, and he has the experience playing in a high-octane offense as well. Chandler Morris, the quarterback for North Texas, he led the conference in completions, attempts, yards, touchdowns, yards per game. So he was the number 1 option in a high-octane passing offense. So he has the experience of being relied on like that.
Yeah, this is a really impressive catch by C.J. Campbell here. Just look how many guys he makes miss in the open field. Just bounced off like 5 guys on 1 reception. Really excited to see how they utilize him.
The no gloves. You got to love it.
Now, before we move over to our next commit, offensively, let's table set a bit. We got our receiver. You guys think we add another, or you think we're done at 1 receiver this offseason in the portal?
I think what they wanted to go after was one of those established veteran guys. And this is
Sheffield here also, by the way.
Yeah, just breakaway speed off a pop pass in motion. Yeah, I think they wanted to get one more veteran established guy, and they got it. So if I had to guess, they're probably done with contributors at wide receiver, if I had to say.
I think they're done in general. Yeah, they're done in
Yep.
general. I can't see them adding another one. Like I said before, Ben Black's going to play a major role this upcoming season. KJ Duff was a starter towards the end of the year. I think those two will have to battle it out for that spot. I think obviously Ian Strong's locked in. This kid seems just about as locked in as you can get at the slot spot. And then we'll wait and see. I think Stephen Murray might play a little bit. I think Jordan Houston might play a little bit. I think there's just there's too many mouths to feed, to be honest. Like it's a good problem to have.
Here's a touchdown run by CJ Campbell, by the way. Looks like there's nothing there, and he's just able to spin away from two defenders, score a touchdown. Mind you, this was a game, I believe it was pretty wet and rainy, so maybe that explains a little bit of the slipperiness, how it just looks like guys can't even get a hold on him. But there's going to be games where there's crappy weather in Piscataway too, so that's it's good to know that he's played in inclement weather and had a lot of success.
Don't speak that into existence.
Listen, I think we've unfortunately all had to endure that a couple times a year. But I know he's got one more touchdown at the end of this as well. So I want to just show that because it's a nice little fade in the end zone. I can't believe they lost this game. They were up by 10 points with 4 minutes left, and North Texas found a way to win.
Well, there was a reason that they overhauled their coaching staff.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes. Remember when Herman was like the hottest name in college?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. FAU's like been like
there. That's a touchdown.
Stepping stone, basically, job too.
Okay, so we think they're done in terms of receivers. They're definitely done at running back. Mm-hmm. They are. What are they still looking for along the offense, Rich?
They would like a tackle. It's not a guarantee.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean they would like to add one, but there's not a true necessity that they feel like. They feel like they have some good players there. Taj White's been able to play both sides of the ball, or both sides of both ends of the line. Jeez, can't talk today. So he'll probably end up taking one of those spots, I would assume. If it stays status quo, he'll take one of those spots, and then Tyler Needham will probably take the other. How that works out, I mean, Needham's played mostly right tackle. Could you shift him over to the left? I think it's possible. But coming off an injury, I don't like the idea at all whatsoever, to be honest with you. I think you got to go get a left tackle. It's not going to be cheap by any means, but I think you have to go in the portal and go find someone. Shedrick Rhodes is still a guy that could potentially play. We know he had some issues getting in shape when he came to Rutgers originally from Ohio, but he did end up redshirting, does have another year, so we'll see what happens with him. He could play guard or tackle. I know you've posted on the boards they're following interior linemen, which I don't see a reason for personally, because I know they're very high on Asamoah, and Brian Felter was arguably the best lineman at one point this year before getting hurt. So I mean, maybe one lineman, maybe a tackle, I would say, but nothing's a guarantee in terms of offensive line portal guys, I should say.
Then it's clear they're looking for a tight end, given that they offered Colin Weber and he visited. It doesn't sound like he's going to end up with the Scarlet Knights, but do you think they're going to still try and look for a tight end, ideally?
Yeah, they're going to look for a tight end. They want a guy that can kind of do both things, not just be strictly a blocker, one that can kind of be a receiver as well. Colin Weber kind of fit that role because he's had a solid past in receiving, not this season as much, but the 2023 season he was a pretty good receiver. I think he led his team in receiving actually at Charlotte. Yep. But yeah, no, he's also massive. I think he's 255 or 250 or something like that. So yeah, they're going to look for a tight end. Again, I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but if they get one on campus, it seems like a damn near guarantee they're going to get the guy. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure they're going to have more visitors over the next week or so. Right? Probably before. No, because Christmas is next week. So it'd have to be this weekend pretty much.
Yeah, and so stay tuned to that because it would be surprising if they didn't have anybody on campus before the Christmas holiday. All right, let's switch over to the defensive side. Rutgers picked up. Go ahead, Alec.
I had one more thing on Sheffield. I know I said that one of his best traits is his release off the line of scrimmage. This is from Sam Shoemaker, who works with the Memphis Rivals site. Granted, it's against Stephen F. Austin, but even his release off the line of scrimmage against his own receivers is really impressive. Just coming off the slot. I mean, he's already a step or two ahead of his own wide receiver off his break, and
Yeah,
you see
good
him just
point.
go right upfield and sprint past everybody. I think that release, especially from the slot, is really important. You see slow down and paused right here, how far ahead of he is of his own guys as well. In addition to being a step ahead of the corner that's guarding him, getting that from the slot's so important because you set up a lot of timing routes over the middle in the slot as well. So just getting that release is really important, and just another example of his skill set and what Rutgers is getting.
Yeah, very excited to see that offense next year. I think just like the constitution of the offense in terms of the players we have, the style that we'll probably be playing, like that's the type of offense you need to have in order to even dream of having an upset of a top team like Penn
Mm-hmm.
State, Oregon, Ohio State. Like you have to have the ability to throw a haymaker, which we now have with the combination of Ethan Kaliak-Manis and those receiving players, or those receivers, and also a back out of the backfield who can catch the ball and is very highly adept at doing that. Um, with the style of offense we've had to play the last couple of years, it's basically like you have to thread 17 needles in order to pull an upset, which is obviously not that easy. But when you can just have that one big punch in your back pocket, that's when you can actually potentially have a big upset. So file that one away because I think Rutgers will. I think Rutgers has a better chance of pulling a big upset this year than they have in a long, long time. All right, let's talk about our commit on the defensive side of the ball. Jacobe Henderson. He is a 5'11", 191-pound cornerback he's from Charlotte, North Carolina, but he played in Fort Mill, South Carolina at Catawba Ridge High School. He
Mm-hmm.
spent 3 years at Marshall, redshirted his first year, played 2 years. Had a pretty good season overall this year. PFF grade of 72.4, which is 291st out of 840 qualifying corners. He had 50 tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 interceptions. He was third team all conference. This is a good pickup. And again, I've said this time and time again. Anytime Shiano and company target a defensive back, I feel pretty good about it. Richie, how did this commitment come together? Where did they find this kid? And what do you think? Where do you expect him? Where do you expect him to fit in on the pecking order this year?
Yeah, so he's from the Carolinas. Played high school ball in South Carolina, but is a Charlotte, North Carolina native, similar to who was that? Was Jakarion Keenan? Is that the one? I think it was
Yeah.
the one that decommitted. North Carolina kid, but they're on the border, so it was just pretty close. And played his ball in South Carolina, but got him to campus again. They get these kids to campus, and they basically just seal the deal. It's really easy to sell DBs if you're Shiano and crew, like you mentioned. There's just so many they've put in the NFL, past and present. He really, just looking at him, watching like a little bit of his film, he reminds me a lot of Christian Braswell. Same height, same build. I think Christian Braswell was 5'11", 185 listed. This kid's 5'11", 191. So very similar. Played at a lower level, got all conference honors. It all kind of just lines up with one another. 2 years to play, which is huge too, because that's what they've been doing mostly for every cornerback transfer they've had. Eric Rogers was the same way. Christian Braswell. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's another one I'm missing, but yeah. Either way, it's a lot of speed here. They want to get as much speed on this team as possible. This kid actually ran for the track team at Marshall his freshman year. Doesn't do it anymore. Just did it 1 year and focus. It was all on football after that. But ran a 7.34 in the 60 meter at the Marshall Classic, where he finished 11th overall. He just seems like a really good, solid corner. He's going to fill in the role. They're losing Rogers. They're losing Longerbeam. I don't know if he's a cornerback one per se. I do think he'll probably have to assume that role for now, temporarily, unless they get someone else. But between him and Mascow, I think both of them are going to play significant roles on this year's defense. So I think this is a really solid get. Nothing crazy, nothing spectacular, but a very above average get, I'll say.
What do you think of him, Alec?
Yeah, I like this kid. He's not the bigger and longer guy that sometimes Shannon really likes to go after, but from watching some of what he did at Marshall, he's a very physical guy at the point of attack when going after the ball. He kind of had a bit of a slow start to start the year. I mean, looking through his games, he had 100% reception to target, I guess, percentage or whatever. in the first 4 games, and that slowly started to drop. I think over the last 8 games, the highest amount of receptions for target percentage, I still don't know how to word this, that he allowed was 50%. There were, let's see, 3 games where he allowed 0 catches in coverage. His PFF grade showed that as well. He really started to come along nicely as the season went on. Had 2 interceptions. He also returned a block kick for a touchdown. I believe this was last year. Yeah, it was earlier this season in a win over App State. Returned a kickoff for a touchdown, or a block kick for a touchdown. He also played at Ohio State, so he has played in the Big Ten. He also played at Virginia Tech, so he has a couple of games of experience playing against Power 5 competition. He ended up finishing with not the best PFF grades in those 2 games. But again, I mean, when you're going up against playing for a Group of 5 team against a team like Ohio State per se, you're always going to be a bit behind the 8 ball. But again, he really improved as the season went on. Like I said, there were a few games where in coverage he allowed no catches at all. So yeah, especially having that extra year for next year as well is a really important piece as well. Like Richie said with Eric Rogers, not just having him there as a body in the cornerback room, but seeing him grow, because we saw Eric Rogers take a really big jump forward in his second year, growing into that cornerback 1 role. And I guess they're seeing that maybe they can see something similar because they got Eric Rogers out of the MAC. They're getting Jacobe Henderson out of, I believe, the Conference USA. I think they Marshall plays
American.
in.
Oh,
American.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Or yeah, Conference USA. Yeah, it's Group of 5 conferences are confusing. But yeah, I'm sure that's factoring in as well, that they can develop this guy into being even better in the next season as well, or 2026 as well. So yeah, I like this get. Kind of like Richie said, I'm not sure how he fits as a cornerback 1 in the Big Ten just yet. I feel like they could still use another piece to that room at cornerback, and then also I believe the safety they really need as well. So we'll see. But for now, for this ad, I like it. Yeah, it's 2 good ads in a day.
Yeah, and maybe Rutgers can find a way to get in with his college teammate Josh Moten, who is the highest graded corner in the FBS according to PFF this year. He's got 1 year of eligibility. He's got a ton of big time offers, but he had a 90.6 PFF grade this year, 91.0 coverage grade. He can basically pick wherever he wants to go, but very, very, very talented player. And I think you kind of have to take that into account too when you're trying to evaluate him just by stats, because you're actually going to get targeted more when you're playing alongside, an All-American level player like Josh Moten. I guess he's visited a few places already. Moten's been to Indiana, and he's got a bunch of other offers. But
yeah, a couple more things with him. This Jacoby actually visited Texas Tech before Rutgers, and he canceled a visit to Maryland. So that is notable. And his older brother, Deontay Henderson, now graduated from Campbell University, is the all-time interception return yards leader at Campbell. And his cousin is some guy named Jair Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. Pretty good family ties there, family genes there.
Yeah, not bad. Marshall's also a very talented team. I think almost their entire roster is in the portal, so maybe he'll allow us to have some connections to some of his teammates like Mike Green, who is an All-American defensive end. Josh Moten I already mentioned, but yeah, a lot of talent there. Maybe we'll have an in now, but
Sun Belt, by the way, Sun Belt Conference.
That's what it is.
Yep, I had it written too. I had SBC, and I'm like, what the fuck does SBC stand for? Oh, it's Sun Belt.
I always mix up those Group of 5 conferences because they're always switching with each other.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Yankees outfielders. Done. Sorry.
And just so everybody knows, Rutgers has started following Moten since he entered the portal, and that was about a week ago. So they are seemingly at least aware of him, following him.
About a week ago.
You're on a roll today.
I am good.
Additionally, it looks like Rutgers is targeting a lot of linebackers and a lot of defensive ends in the last few days in the portal. have a full breakdown as to who those players are and a little more color on each of them. But is there anything else we didn't hit on here, guys, before we head out?
We want to talk about the not Nike deal.
Yeah, let's get into it. So Rutgers officially approved a bid yesterday for their new apparel contract. Rutgers is locked in for 5 years with Nike, but it's not directly through Nike. Rich, what's the deal with the apparel deal now that it's been signed?
So, do you want the bad news or the bad news?
Let's just get the full story here.
Okay. So they put it out to bid, and companies can come in and put a bid on the apparel deal. And the only one that really reached out was BSN. Now, there's some things here. Like Adidas obviously is not going to reach out and put a bid in because they're already pissed off that you're wearing an Adidas jersey with Nike shoes. Nike, there's some weird rule where I was told Nike apparently couldn't put in a bid. And this is speculation from the guy I was talking to. Nike couldn't put in a bid because they're already pissed off Adidas by wearing shoes and this and that and like that. There was a whole lot of stuff. And at the end of the day, like it was Pat Hobbs' decision to do this. And it was kind of the only way they could get away with wearing Nike shoes while having an Adidas jersey. So he did that weird deal that I forget who broke it down, either Fonseca or someone on NJ.com did it. But it was like a weird deal where they're buying at a discounted rate from Adidas, so they're paying Adidas instead of Adidas paying them, and that's where it was tricky. But that was the only way that Ace and Dylan were allowed to wear Nike. Now, originally, they were going to re-sign with Adidas. Pat Hobbs said on our podcast, broke the news there. Etched in stone. Then Dylan and Ace commit, and it's like, these kids want to wear Nike. Shit, what can we do here? So there's like kind of a breach of contract, but not a breach of contract. So that's where it gets really tricky. Like Nike was ready to outfit this team like immediately. They had home jerseys, away jerseys, alternate jerseys. Now Adidas is pushing back, saying breach of contract, blah, blah, blah. So they're not going to be allowed to do that. Could it get settled down the line and maybe later in the season it could happen? Sure, but at this point, who the hell cares? So, yeah, they signed with BSN. BSN is an apparel outfitter that a lot of high school programs use. So here's the bad news. You don't want to hear that. Like for a Big Ten team to do that, I didn't think anyone really cared about Rutgers apparel deal. I had like other Big Ten writers like, yo, what the hell is Rutgers doing? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I could ask myself the same thing every couple months, but you sign with BSN. So BSN has the basic Nike catalog. They will order from Nike for you, but it's very standard templates. Like it's like even the most basic, like Rutgers, just across the font. Hey, here, what font do you want? We're just going to slap a Nike logo on it and you're done. There you go. You're not getting the cream of the crop, the next tier or whatever you want to call it. All those crazy uniforms they make for Christmas and other holidays and stuff like that. Whereas like Adidas even kind of had Rutgers as a second tier school. What was the one? The Black Excellence uniforms? Is that what they were called?
Yep.
I think. And you're not going to get any of those anymore, which kind of sucks. But it's $30 million, I believe it was, over 10 years. It's not over 5 years. That's with that 5-year option. Now there's an out somehow. There is speculation that after those 5 years, they might be able to sign fully with Nike. But I don't know if that's going to end up happening. It's way too hard to predict. But the fact that no one put a bid out, whether it be Under Armour, New Balance, Reebok, etc., it was only BSN really. It kind of sucks. Like you can still provide logos, fonts, and the color schemes and all that other stuff, but that's really it for uniforms. Like you're not going to get these crazy things. You can provide like a font of the old school uniform, so you might be able to keep those going in the future because you have. But I don't know how it's going to work. Like you're not going to get like the Nike dry fit stuff. You're just going to get a jersey and here you go, basically. Now, other kids, of course, Ace and Dylan, like those kind of kids who signed with Nike, Yami McMillan, who's at Jordan, is going to get to wear whatever they want because the company themselves is just going to go, here, take it. The only way this can really work out good in Rutgers' favor is if they change that rule and you can just wear whatever shoe you want. It doesn't matter what apparel brand your school's associated with. So we'll wait and see, but not great. Not great.
Well, there is another way that this could turn better, I guess. Shout out to Tom Gilbert in the Discord for finding this one. So Cincinnati, in July of 2023, they signed a similar deal with BSN. But then in December, they announced that they were signing with actual Nike through 2029, December of 2023. Also with Jordan Brand, I believe they had some partnership with that. So there is precedent for signing with BSN and then later actually getting the full Nike deal. I don't know if that's going to happen here because, like Richie said, it's kind of a weird situation. But there's at least a little light at the end of the tunnel to see if it has happened before. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if it'll happen again.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But we will have to just wait and see. But we are officially going to be a Nike school as of July 2025. So if you love Adidas and you want to get some Rutgers Adidas gear, you got a few months to do it because it's not going to be around much longer. And if you're a Nike person like the majority of us and you can't wait to get some Rutgers gear, it's coming soon. So hold out hope. That's all we got. I want to thank you once again for listening. You never know when the next pod's going to drop because you never know when news is going to drop. We still don't have a defensive coordinator. We have the Princeton game on Saturday. The portal stuff's fast and furious. I'm sure we'll have another pod in the next week talking about that. We'll have a preview pod for the bowl game with a Kansas State writer early next week. We're going to try and get that out probably Tuesday if I had to guess because Christmas is Wednesday. Or Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. The game's on Thursday.
It's bad.
Week from today.
So we are a week away from Christmas and 8 days away from Rutgers bowl game. I'm excited. It'd be nice to have something tangible to talk about, but that is all we have today. For me, Richie and Alec, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.